All right, it's Mr. Glaser again. We're on day 4 of World War II PowerPoint. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe. I miss seeing your faces. All right, and so we're gonna be on day 4. Remember, when you get done with your study guide, you can either scan it, send it to me and Miss Maloney through email. All right, through Office 365. You can share it that way. You can take a picture of it if you're just writing if you just want to put your answers just on Word, and you can send that to us. Any way you want to get us to your study guide, get us the study guide. All right. So we're on day 4. The war is over. All right. And we'll talk about the wartime atrocities. As you know, the Holocaust. We're going to do a whole PowerPoint on the Holocaust next. But you learned about the Holocaust last year. 6 million Jews, 4 million other people killed during the Holocaust. All right. And so we'll go into a little bit more of that in the next PowerPoint. Japan had their own atrocities. An invasion of Nanjing in China in 1937. Also known as the rape of Nanjing. Japanese soldiers killed 250,000 or more Chinese civilians. When they say the rape of Nanjing, they mean that lots of women were raped, people were killed, lots of people were killed, men, women, children, babies, over 250,000 were killed. All right. The Philippines, when United States troops had to surrender on Bataan in 1942, they were marched miles and miles and miles, like a 3-day march, to the prisoner of war camp. It was called the Bataan Death March. Any soldier who couldn't keep up. All right, and remember, at this time when they surrendered, they're on half rations or less because they've been surrounded by the Japanese for a while. So when they surrendered, they were not in good condition already. They were not given food. They were not given water. Any soldier that couldn't keep up was bayoneted by the Japanese soldiers or shot or beaten to death. A lot of soldiers just gave up and died because they couldn't walk anymore. So they called it Bataan Death March. All right. Japanese warrior code Bushido said surrendering was dishonorable, and they thought once you surrendered, you lost all your honor, so you can be treated any way they wanted to be treated. So a lot of the soldiers on the Bataan Death March died. That's why they call it the Bataan Death March. All right. We're not gonna watch that video. Soviet Union did a lot of crimes we talked about before. Stalin killed as many or as more people as Hitler, most of his own people. But when they took over Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Georgia, Estonia, when they took a lot of these places, they took them into the Soviet Union, into the Eastern Bloc. They did not let them have self-rule. When they were, remember, Soviet Union invaded Poland with the Germans. Okay, after Germany invaded USSR. On the way back, when the USSR was pushing the German army back towards Germany, when the Red Army got close to Poland, the Polish people in Warsaw, they rose up to fight against the Germans. All the resistant fighters who have been saving their weapons and getting weapons, they rose up to fight against the German army. The Russian army stopped and watched the Poles fight the German army for a couple of weeks. So most of those Polish fighters would die. And so when the Soviet Union got there, then they would not have to worry about resistance fighters. And then once the Poles fought the Germans and most of them left and most of them died, then the Soviet Union came in. They did not want any resistance to the Soviet Union. Stalin did not want any resistance. So that's happening in most of these places. All right. So all these places is going to be controlled by the Soviet Union now. So impact of World War II. All right. Our human losses. 75 million killed. Majority were civilians, not soldiers. Soviet Union had the largest loss, 22 million people, civilians and soldiers. Soviet Union, by the way, they don't call it, in Russia even today, they don't call it World War II. They call it the Great Patriotic War. And they know they bore the brunt of the war. Fighting, they lost the most soldiers, they lost the most civilians. All right. And so you see here, Soviet Union had the most killed. Economic losses. Almost all of Europe's in ruins. There was fighting everywhere. France, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Soviet Union, all the countries where Britain was bombed, okay? All the factories were bombed by U.S. Air Force, Army Air Force, and the Royal Air Force, so the Germans could not produce anything, weapons, planes. So factories were destroyed, towns were destroyed, all right? Farmland was destroyed. So it was basically Europe was in ruins, all right? As the armies wasted away to Berlin, the everything was pretty much destroyed. War crime trials, another part of the impact. All right, the Nazis were put on trial. This was happening in the city of Nuremberg. It happened there because it was one of the less damaged cities. Okay, so France, Britain, United States, USSR all sent judges to the Nuremberg trials. All right, the U.S., the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, he was the one in charge of all of it. Okay, some people said we should just take the Germans outside and shoot them. That's what they would have done to us. Okay, and the United States made the point that we need to show this in trial so people would know. Okay, and they put a lot of Nazis on trials. Some were executed, some were in prison, some just had prison for a few years, some were in prison for life. Some of the most famous Nazis, like say Hitler killed himself in the bunker. Hermann Goering, the head of the German Luftwaffe, someone actually smuggled him some cyanide pills when he was in prison waiting his trial, and he killed himself in prison. Okay, this is where we saw a lot of the Germans, the Nazis saying, "I was just following orders. If I'm a captain and the major tells me to do something, I had to follow orders." And this became where it's not legal to follow what they call an immoral order, crimes against humanity, they call it. Okay, and so in the German Constitution, and then if you join the German Army, when you make your oath to the German Army to defend the German Constitution, you also make an oath to not follow any immoral orders. The idea of I was just following orders did not fly. Right? People knew better than to kill civilians and round people up, put them in showers full of cyanide gas and burn the bodies. People knew better. All right, we can get a little bit more into that in the Holocaust PowerPoint in the next PowerPoint. Okay, but this is put them on trial. The United States made a point. The Allies said we need to put them on trial, show the world, have a record of what went on. Okay. So a lot of the countries are occupied. After that, United States, Britain, France, USSR occupied Germany, and was divided between those four countries. Japan was occupied by the United States, and in the parts occupied by the Allies, by France, Britain, and the United States, and we helped make new democracies, write new constitutions. So we have West Germany and then East Germany. All right, West Germany got a new constitution. East Germany is ruled by the Soviets. All right, Japan got a new constitution. The United States helped write these new constitutions. Soviets occupied East Germany and Eastern Europe, and they were placed, communist governments were placed there. All right, they didn't have a choice. Stalin took all those countries over, and they were part of what they call Eastern Europe now. Europe's divided in half between Democratic East, Democratic West, Communist East, and they said there's an iron curtain dividing the two. Winston Churchill came up with this in one of his famous speeches. All right, this is going to lead us to the Cold War, which we'll talk about in the future PowerPoint after the Holocaust PowerPoint. So you see here at the map, West Germany, new country. Austria is a country again, not part of Germany. And then our Eastern European, Poland loses a lot of territory. You see here, all right? And then the Soviet Union took all this land for themselves. Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, East Germany, all part of under control of the Soviet Union. Yugoslavia, they were communists. They had a very powerful dictator themselves, Joseph Tito, and Stalin did not want to fight in Yugoslavia. And so they were able to be a little bit more independent, but they were not under Soviet control, but they followed pretty much along the same guidelines. All right, so then we have two. You're going to have the West with the United States and other countries in blue against the East with the Soviet Union, these countries in Eastern Europe, and these other countries that are communist, Yugoslavia, for example, and China. And it's going to lead us to our Cold War, which will be our next, again, after the Holocaust, and you see which sides against each other. United Nations is another one of the outcomes of World War II. Okay, remember in World War I, President Wilson wanted a League of Nations. That did not work out because they made a League of Nations, but the United States didn't join it. And so they didn't have much power. So now you had the United Nations. First, it was in San Francisco, in California. Later, it moved to New York City. That's where it is now. Just like the League of Nations, it was supposed to be a place to provide, to discuss world problems and develop solutions before war occurs. Okay, so all the countries get together and discuss stuff and try not to have wars. Obviously, as we know, this has not worked out perfectly, but the United Nations still has a place in the world today. All right. The Greatest Generation, one of your questions there. Tom Brokaw, one of our famous journalists, he coined this term, the Greatest Generations, those soldiers in Civil War II. I'm going to help you answer that question of why they call it Greatest Generation. Basically, this is a generation that grew up during the Great Depression. All right? Most of the soldiers who fought in World War II, they grew up during the Great Depression. And so they had deprivation during the Great Depression, not a lot of food, not new clothes, parents didn't have jobs, they had to move around a lot. Okay, they went to go fight the war. They fought what people say is probably one of the last quote unquote good war. They knew they were fighting evil against the Nazis, all right, and then the Japanese, and they fought for democracy against fascism. They say they made the world safe for democracy, and so they, basically made the world safe for democracy, for freedom, defeated the evils of Nazi Germany and Mussolini and Japan. And they went back to the United States and made the United States one of the greatest countries in the world by making the economy great and did their jobs and just went back to work. All right? So that's why they call them the Greatest Generation. You can use any combination of that for your question about how they went to war, came back, and took the lives and picked up the lives again, and then made the United States with the biggest economy in the world after World War II. All right? This is the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. If you ever get a chance to get there, it's very beautiful. Each one of these going around there is for each state. There's flags for battles. Again, if you've never been to Washington, D.C., you should definitely make a trip there one day. There's lots of monuments, statues, all the museums owned by United States Smithsonian museums. Those are free because your tax dollars pay for them. All right, my favorite is the Air and Space Museum. All right, so again, you look at the Atlantic, Pacific, all right? This Iwo Jima Memorial from the Pacific. If you go there, you can see all the memorials. Again, if you've never been to Washington, D.C., after all this stuff is over, maybe take a trip this summer. All right, hopefully everything will be done by then. All right, that's our last slide for World War II. Again, Mr. Maloney is going to start the Holocaust slide later. Okay, so again, once you get them in your study guide, get them to me or Miss Maloney somehow. All right. Again, you can scan it, take a picture of it, just write the answers down on Microsoft Word, email that to us, so make sure you did it. Your next assignment is on our website at www.mrmaloney.weebly.com. You can get to that through the Warm Out website by going to Teachers, click on my face or Miss Maloney's face, take you right to our website. The movie Dunkirk is on there. Okay, so we want you to watch the movie Dunkirk. All right, which explains the British evacuation of Dunkirk. The movie's only a couple years old. It's a really good movie. Okay, there's some questions to throw out as you watch the movie. So again, watch the movie, answer those questions, get those questions to us with the study guide, and we'll talk to you next week. We'll be going into the Cold War and the Holocaust. All right. If you have any questions, you can email me or Miss Maloney. Again, our email's on the school website if you don't have them already. And again, everybody, stay inside. Stay safe, and hopefully we will see you soon.